Good morning and welcome to the Standing Committee meeting for Wednesday, April 12th, 2023. All council meetings will continue to be live streamed on the city's website. Our first order of business is roll call. Would the clerk please take the roll?
Reverend Burgess. Mr. Coghill.
Here.
Ms. Gross. Mr. Kraus. Mr. Kraus. Mrs. Kale Smith. Mrs. Strasburger.
Here.
Ms. Warwick. Mr. Wilson.
Here.
Mr. Lavelle, Chair.
Here.
5 members present.
And Councilman Kraus is with us. Our next order of business is public comment. I would like to remind all speakers that the rules of council state that comments are limited to matters of concern, official action, or deliberation, which are or may be before city council, and profanity is not permitted. Once you are called, please restate your name and provide your neighborhood for the record. You'll be given 3 minutes to speak. Our first registered speaker is Naomi Mullen.
Oh, in person.
And it is nice to meet you in
Knows
person.
you, Naomi.
This was read at my husband's funeral. Michael J. Mullen Reflection by Battalion Chief Douglas Praskovich. Retired Deputy Chief Mike Mullen touched the lives of many people. His uncompromising dedication to his sworn duty to provide for the safety of the citizens of Pittsburgh was truly exceptional, and then one that should be emulated by every firefighter. He loved sharing his knowledge of firefighting in all its many aspects to make our firefighters safer, smarter, and more efficient on the fire ground. Mike knew most of the firefighters on the entire Pittsburgh Bureau of Fire by their first name and was always approachable regardless of rank. If you had a question, he would stop what he was doing to answer it. He worked tirelessly, but also energetically his entire career in pursuit of more knowledge. His legacy will serve our citizens and firefighters for years to come. Mike was a loving and compassionate husband, father, brother, relative, and friend, and I might add also neighbor. Michael J. Mullen lived a full life, as his obituary so accurately described. Mike was passionate, tireless, dedicated, highly conscientious, and caring. Well done, Michael. Well done. Rest in peace, my friend. As you can see from these badges, it represents a lot of accomplishment. It's not even easy to get on the fire department to begin with, and then it's highly competitive in the exams. He strove to be the best at his job, and he also worked tirelessly in the neighborhood. When Jim Motznick was the councilman for our area, he helped us try to keep the school open, Von Air Elementary, but we did not succeed. We also came down here and we explained why we did not want any zoning change for our neighborhood. So right now, apparently there are vultures trying to take our school and create whatever they want with it. This is the problem. An excellent school was closed. 2, the building has become a threat and detrimental harm. 3, it should be condemned and sold to the city for $1. 4, it must be torn down. 5, parks and trees Pittsburgh funds used to make it a green space. 6, the residents of Bon Air will care for it as volunteers. Why are we paying for a continued detriment, and why should we pay taxes for a detriment? Shady trees, not shady deals in Bon Air. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next registered speaker is Pomai Chakman Yahalahi.
And Lakek Alakaing, the light of me honors the light in you. I am East Pomai Chakman Yahalahi. I'm Grand Council Chief Member of the Iroquois Confederacy of Aboriginal American People. I'm also Chief of the Onkwe Aborigines Nation of the Americas. And I'm here today to speak in support of shady trees, not shady deals. in Bonaire. And no, I am not staying in that area, but I've listened to this wonderful woman speak diligently over the months regarding that situation there. And I know as an Aborigine, we steward land in a beneficial way for future generations to come. And that is a good model that she speaks of. So just wanted to give support to her fight for the people there in that particular area. I want to say that there's an issue with vacant lots being used as illegal dump sites. And it is in the Lincoln-Leamington area in particular. Between 7,002 and also 7,000 or so, and addresses that start at 6998. They have dumped big blocks and gravel and tires and pipes and garbage and major amounts of litter. And there needs to be a sign there stating that there's a fine if they continue to do so. Dumping and litter on Olivant Street on both sides of the street below the address of 1336 on the hill by the top steps of Paulson Field, and 3 on vacant lots along the lower part of Montezuma Street, just above its intersection with Leamington Avenue. There's a lot of litter, and on both sides of those lots on Montezuma and one lot behind next to the Cheers Pub, there's a lot bordering Manning Street and big piles of what looks like material used for tarring the streets and asphalt. And there are 3 big piles that could only have been dumped by a big truck. There are many more heavily littered vacant lots in the Lincoln-Leamington area. And I'm just putting a call out that this was brought to my attention as I am the land steward for the land and pretty much in this community. And the residents, and they come to me and they tell me these things because they know I speak at City Council a lot and I speak regarding land stewardship. So this was brought to my attention by Joanne, and she works with the Lincoln-Leamington Consensus Group, and she also is one of the founders of the Lincoln-Leamington Green Team, and we do a lot of work to clean up the area. So just want to put that to light because there's an issue when she calls 311 and no one comes out. So, you know, we love our communities. We want to see them thrive. We want to see our children be able to play in the vacant lots as we are creating orchards and things of that nature in this area. We are the stewards of the land. And as City Council, we're just asking that you take consideration and check on 311 and see, you know, what is the issue that they don't come out and address these issues. And again, as a steward of the land here in this particular area, the Delaware Territory, we continue as the Aborigines to look forward to working with all of the citizens and the residents that are also advocates for proper land stewardship. Thank you very much. I yield.
Thank you very much. Our next registered speaker is Eric Venestendil.
Hello, thank you. Yes. Hello, City Council members. My name is Eric Venestendil, and for the past 13 months, I have served as the interim executive director of the Community Alliance Spring Garden East Deutschtown, which is also known as CASGID. CASGID's volunteer board of directors has been in operation as a 501c3 community organization since 2008, and after being generously funded by neighborhood economic development grants from this body for 2022 and 2023 operations, has spent the past 6+ months action and strategic planning for the next 3 years of work to face this community. Most notably, CASGID now has capacity for multiple professional committee members, legal counsel, and consultants, and has retained an executive director moving forward who has experience in architecture, design, land use, and planning. The first step that CASGID has engaged in is actively transitioning into official RCO status with assistance from the City of Pittsburgh's Department of City Planning, and specifically the North Side's designated neighborhood planner, who will bring a wealth of the city's institutional knowledge to negotiating the changing real estate development ecosystem and land use in these communities. My comments today are regarding Bill 2022-0661, the Wood Ring Court Private Alley Ordinance, the overlapping proposed residential multi-unit townhome development that serves as the basis for Bill 2022-0661, and the creation of a brand new private alleyway is 4+ units of new construction, which under the RCO status would trigger a development activities meeting. Having a structured development activities meeting for CASGID with the landowners and potential developments is a stated outcome and goal of the RCO status. To date, Fitting in with Casgood's predominant mission as a grassroots community organization is improving the quality of life for its members by organizing and encouraging efforts to revitalize these neighborhoods, which includes a robust community engagement campaign around things such as a new development. We have not yet engaged in a guided conversation with city planning and Casgood and community constituents alongside the proposed developers of Woodring Court. Development activities meetings, from my experience in other neighborhoods in the city of Pittsburgh with unprecedented development pressures, almost always result in higher quality development outcomes because of a more robust discussion among stakeholders and guarantee more feedback from surrounding residents of this section by nature of the guidance by city planning. This is especially important where new traffic patterns and privatization of the public way are proposed through new curb cuts, such as on this section of Susmon Street, one of the major stakeholders of which is the Pittsburgh Public Schools Schiller STEAM Academy. I invite City Council to continue to hear feedback from the Community Alliance of Spring Garden East Deutschtown, and especially as it involves city planning moving forward on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. That exhausts our list of registered speakers. If there's anyone in chambers wishing to speak, please come forward at this time. Provide your name and neighborhood for the record. You will also be given 3 minutes to speak.
Good morning. My name is Yvonne F. Brown. I first wanted to make a statement. You hear me clapping, and the reason why I do is to let them know I hear you. I might not agree with you, but I thank you for calling in. Also, today they have a 1:30 post agenda. I forget what that was about, but this 2:30 is a cable public hearing about them scooters. My question is this: whose family belongs to that company for every mayor in this nation to buy these carts or whatever they is? The reason why I'm saying that, I live up the top of the hill. You made them streets. I don't know why they made them streets the way they did, but there's kids. Look like a 12-year-old with a little 6-year-old on the back of this. Went to East Liberty. Out there, them kids are riding. Do you realize what you did? You brought them in, put them there, and didn't tell the people. You tell them after you did that. You need to tell us first what you're going to do. Or ask us. The reason why I'm saying something is that you need to know, just like they're going to have this post agenda at 1:30, so it means we can't talk. We got to listen to you and blah, blah, blah. Then at 2:30, we have to sit to 2:30 for us to be able to speak. It should have been the other way around. And the only reason why I'm saying that, give us some consideration. You just ride cars, you have homes. I'm renting, and I'm walking most of the time because our buses don't run up in our hill district. Like you've got the buses for the drunks to go back and forth to the bar. We can't get a bus or even a shuttle to get down to the bottom of the hill to go to the hospital. Now, I keep saying I want you to see what I bring. I do this. I do a lot of writing. And the reason why is because I believe when you see it, you remember it. You hear it, you might forget it, but when you know, you know. Now, I've got a sign. When we had the Juneteenth, April, the name of the lady, the little lady is Opal, and she came to Bethel Church, and she was walking to Washington, D.C. to make Juneteenth a holiday. Because remember, the slaves were freed, but they weren't told until some years later. And she's saying that should be a holiday. I have here, this one is, we wanted to know why you had up on Bedford, this was supposed to be August Wilson. Okay, you had where sodas was $2 a piece. Slice of pizza was $4 a piece. A cupcake was $5 a piece. My time is up, but I'm telling you, I got a whole lot that I've been writing for years. I ain't just coming down here just to talk to you. I want you to understand there's people that are sending me down here. People tell me to come down. I don't want to come down a lot of times. And I've been praying for you.
Thank you very much. Any further speakers? Any further speakers? Seeing none, that will move us to our standing committee agenda. Members, we're going to go a little out of order and start with our Public Works so that our director can move on. So we'll begin with Public Works and Infrastructure Committee, which is chaired by Councilman Kraus, and the bill will be 1397.
Bill 1397, resolution authorizing the mayor and directors of the Department of Public Works and the Department of Finance on behalf of the city to amend and renew the lease agreement with Beaver Avenue Associates LLC to continue providing a lease space at 1301 Beaver Avenue for the purposes of housing the Facilities Maintenance Division of the Department of Public Works for the total cost not to exceed $716,401.42 over a 5-year period with utilities costs included, and an option to terminate without penalty between the 3 through 5 year period if necessary.
Motion to approve. Brief discussion, please.
Second.
Thanks,
Discussion,
Councilman. Mr. Chair, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. Director, will you come up, please? Appreciate you being here. Good morning, Director. So I held the bill last week for a week so that we could have a better understanding as the fiduciary agents of the city as to a $700,000 expenditure to rent space, which makes me a little bit nervous, but I don't think it's something new. So I wanted to present you the opportunity to explain to council how and why this contract needs to be renewed.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for the courtesy. Very much appreciated. Chris Hornstein, Director of Public Works. So the history of this lease is, the Facilities Maintenance Division was relocated from their previous to, we needed, without lacking in space, we had to secure a lease. This term, an option year on the previous contract came up, and the landlord reached out to us with concerns over what amounted to grossly increasing utility costs. So we reviewed that with him. We reviewed the utility costs from the utility companies, and we found that his cause was justifiable based on what he was expending on the city's behalf to pay for utilities. And so in reviewing the terms of the lease, the landlord was willing to have a reduced increase. So what's represented here is a 2% annual increase over the previous term to cover the cost. There is an additional cost in here, which we validated with the utility company for installing an electric vehicle charger for the facilities maintenance as we transition their fleet to electric vehicles.
So we're looking at about 100, it's a 5-year contract for $700,000, about $110,000 a year, roughly. I'm pulling that number out of my head, something along those lines. I can appreciate, how do I want to say it? Let me back up before I go there. We have no other options now that we have moved the facilities, the location of the facility. We have no other option as to perhaps possibly buy a building as opposed to rent a space, right?
Correct. So the long-term plan for the Facilities Maintenance Division is to relocate them to the warehouse and construction division next to the 62nd Street Bridge. That project is in design. There are capital dollars allocated for that.
Okay.
And we anticipate that construction to begin in 2024. So it was advisable also for us to extend the terms of this lease to make sure that they have a location.
So, Director, is that part of the reason why the clause to terminate at our discretion was included?
That's correct.
That makes me a lot more comfortable, and I'm thank you for that. I appreciate that if it when and as necessary, we can end the lease without a penalty. In terms of utility increase, utilities are like parking. You know, we in that parking is not about adding spaces; it's about vehicle reduction. Utilities is not about paying more; it's can we reduce our use in any way that we can. And so I just say that to say that, you know, with escalating utility costs, and I do understand and appreciate that, we also have a responsibility to reduce as necessary. So,
Absolutely.
I appreciate you being here, Director. I will be supportive. And we'll ask my colleagues to be supportive as well too. But I'm sure they may have questions for you. And I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilman Coghill?
Yep, thank you. Good morning, Director Hornstein. So the idea is to move the maintenance division to the 62nd Street Bridge eventually. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and you need to build out there to some degree in order to do that.
That's correct.
So you're projecting 5 years there maybe, and we'll be ready to move and get out of the lease. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's our property, 62nd Street.
That's correct.
Okay, so no more rent. Well, while we're on the subject, I can't resist.
I stayed away from it.
Well, thank you, because I had it in my remarks, but the 4th Public Works Division, what's the latest on that? I know that there's no machinery up there or anything, and I didn't know if the supply chain, but people were very anxious. They're asking me all the time, when are we going to start building there? And, I've come up with many reasons, and as you know, there's been many reasons why we haven't started it, but I'm hoping this spring, this summer. Any updates for me?
Yes, I'm checking my records right now. It seems like we are in process of getting the final improvements for permitting. So we're hopeful we're going to be going out to bid very, very shortly.
So we can't put it out to bid until we got the necessary
And
permits.
it's very, and on this particular project, I would advise against that strongly, just due to the complexity.
The permits that we're waiting for, is that PLI? What are we waiting for?
There's, some just actually final approvals on zoning, which all paths seem to be clear. It's just a matter of, crossing Ts and dotting Is, if you will, along with some DOMI requests that we're following up on, and they've been very supportive in.
So is it safe to say within the next month we'll be clear to put it out for bid?
That is looking to be our hope, but why don't I follow up with you with more detail? I don't want to give you misinformation.
No, I got you. And once we do put it out for bid, we don't know if there's a supply chain issue yet with the building that we're going to erect there.
That's correct. I mean, our designers seem to indicate that everything seems to be standard materials. I'm sure there's going to be lead times. We're experiencing it. Notably on things like HVAC is what comes to my mind. But we try to do this as much as standard equipment as much as possible.
We won't know how long it will take to build until we put it out for bid, depending on the contractor, I guess.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Do we anticipate? Is it going to be 2 months, 6 months, or we don't?
I would anticipate 6 to 8 months minimum.
And I'm very grateful that I'm sure we saved some money in salt this year, right? I mean, if ever I needed a mild winter. So I'm hoping that, this project is done and ready for December. It might be wishful thinking right now. I promised it last year to the district and the year before that, even though it's not in my district, it's in Councilman Krause's district, but it's vital to, it serves my district as well. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, anything you can give me on that so I can tell the public. I'll be at some public meetings up in Carrick and Bon Air. That's where we had the majority of our problems, and Brookline. And if I can get anything from them, like when are the permits going to be finalized for starters, and then we'll immediately put it out for bid then. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thanks.
Affirmative recommendation. Thank you. Also, just let the record reflect that we are joined by Councilwoman Gross. She wasn't able to announce herself when we did roll call because Zoom wasn't working, but it should be working now. As well
Thank you, Councilman.
Yes, and Madam President was also online and wasn't able to announce herself.
So I came in.
So we're now going to the beginning of the agenda, and we have the Finance and Law Committee, which is chaired by myself. Our first deferred paper is Bill 1309.
1309, resolution authorizing the issuance of a warrant in favor of Spillman, Thomas, and Battle for legal services in connection with a police litigation matter for an amount not to exceed $17,023.80.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Affirmative recommendation. Bill 1312.
1312, resolution authorizing the execution of quitclaim deeds conveying all of the city's right, title, and interest in and to the city-owned property located in the 15th Ward of the city at 624 Tesla Street, designated in the Deed Registry Office of Allegheny County as Block 55M, Lot 302, and Block 55M, Lot 305, to the Pittsburgh Water and Sewer Authority.
Motion to approve, brief discussion, please.
Second.
Discussion,
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'm just curious as to whose council district this is affecting. Councilwoman, I'll defer to you.
Yeah, that's mine. So this is just it's upgrade to existing infrastructure, and they're going to put in a new chlorine booster facility and a few other things, but that it shouldn't have any major impact, so.
Councilwoman?
Yep.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Affirmative recommendation. Bill 1361.
1361, resolution providing for the sale of certain property acquired by the city of Pittsburgh at tax sales. Items A through J, 5463 Broad Street, 0 Mountain Avenue, 0 Pliny Way, 540 Herschel Street, 916 Elkton Street, 228 Stanhope Street, 0 Redknapp Street, 608 Redknapp Street, 1551 Claretonica Street, and 948 Girder Street.
Approve, please.
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, I want to thank Aaron Pickett for working with us on making sure that we're comfortable and the community's comfortable with these properties. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Affirmative recommendation. Bill 1362.
1362, resolution providing for the conveyance by the city of Pittsburgh of certain property having been placed for sale to adjoining property owners in conjunction with the city of Pittsburgh's side yard program. Items A through 9, 0 Beethoven Street, 1540 Dresden Way, 5439 Black Street, 0 Apple Street, 7316 Hermitage Street, 7803 Frankstown Avenue, 368 Flowers Avenue, 372 Flowers Avenue, 955 Manton Way, 983 Industry Street, 96 Pasadena Street, 481 Belonda Street, 827 Swissman Street, and 3616 Granada Street.
Motion to approve, please.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing
May
none.
I?
Yeah, Madam, Councilman Gross?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I also just want to thank the Director of Finance for talking to me about some of the properties on the side yard sale in my district, and thank you to council members for letting this wait for a week until we clarified it was really confusion about what yards were being transferred to which properties, and she clarified that for me, so I'm appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Affirmative recommendation. New papers, Bill 1390.
1390, resolution authorizing the issuance of 2 warrants totaling $150,000 in settlement of a case filed in the Allegheny County Court of Common Pleas.
Motion to hold for executive session, please.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Bill be held for executive session. Bill 1391.
1391, resolution authorizing the issuance of a warrant in favor of Kathleen Spearman in the amount of $3,222 in settlement of a claim for damage to her residence entry and storm doors from city fire personnel on November 5th, 2021.
Motion to approve, please.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Affirmative recommendation. Bill 1398.
1398, resolution further amending Resolution Number 864 of 2018, effective January 1st, 2019, as amended, entitled, Resolution Adopting and Approving the 2019 Capital Budget and the 2019 Community Development Block Grant Program and the 2019 through 2024 Capital Improvement Program by reducing Mon Oakland Connector 4 Mile Run by $21,000 and increasing 4 Mile Run Playground by $21,000.
Motion to approve with discussion?
Kim?
Yeah, so just to clarify, so there was a grant of, this is back a couple of years ago, there was a grant from CMU for $250,000 for, to do a new playground in 4 Mile Run. And at the time, my predecessor had said that we could do a little bit larger project. And so that's what was planned and, in terms of the design and all of that, but then the additional money was not actually there, so we just moved it over from rather than go back and redesign and downscale, do all the work again, we moved money over to just cover the additional cost.
I just want to say that I have a few questions, but I'll talk to you afterwards about it.
Sure.
Because I want to be honest, I've never seen a new council member move so much money as you have since you come in. So I think, your district's lucky that you're doing it. But two, I want to make sure that we're not taking money from projects that DOMI or others intended to use. So I'll talk to you later about it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Affirmative recommendation. I need a motion to approve the invoices.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Invoices are approved. Need a motion to approve the P cards.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? P cards are approved. That takes us to Public Safety and Wellness Committee, chaired by Councilman Coghill. First new papers, Bill 1394.
Resolution authorizing the mayor and the director of the Department of Public Safety to enter into an agreement or agreements with the State Office of the Fire Commissioner for the purpose of receiving and spending grant funds in the amount of $15,000 to support the purchase of emergency rescue equipment.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Affirmative recommendation, Bill 1395.
Resolution authorizing the mayor and the director of the Department of Public Safety to enter into an agreement or agreements with the Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership to provide an ambassador program to assist police with non-criminal matters in the Central Business District at an overall cost to the city not to exceed $600,000.
Motion to approve with discussion.
Second.
Lots of discussion.
I will yield to Councilman Kraus.
Wow. You sure?
Yeah, I may have a question or two, but
Okay.
we'll see what you say.
Are you here for this? Come on up, come on down. I could. Yeah, good morning, welcome, thanks for coming. This is an important bill.
Provide your name and title for the record.
Good morning, welcome. Thanks for being here. It's interesting. I've been having this conversation a lot that over the years, we have been very, very lucky to have a surviving and thriving downtown, even though many other cities, downtowns were not so lucky. And so even though I was never really followed politics per se a lot, I was always engaged in sort of, what certain administrations were doing and what their interest was and so forth and so on. And so I just remember under the Caligiuri administration, there was huge investments made in downtown where Grant Street was bricked and became this amazing avenue, in downtown. Remember well the first Renaissance, we built Oxford and One Mellon and Highmark, and the difference that we tried to make when we were losing retail establishments. Gimbel's closed, Horns closed, but Macy's came in. Pyatt Place was built. Macy's moved. Mayor Murphy put Lord and Taylor in the old bank building. The Kaufman's, God, well, I'll never forget, closed. It's the worst thing that ever happened in my life, I swear. And but Macy's came in, and and so we've always had this sort of comfort level of a really vibrant and vital downtown, and we've been able to survive it. Now, this doesn't fall, I don't believe this falls at the feet of anyone. This is sort of circumstance and global pandemic and how the world has changed and what is taking place in the world broadly and how it is affecting our downtown. Nature abhors a vacuum. If there's nothing there, something's going to move in to fill whatever is absent. And as a result of global pandemic, we have office space that's going unutilized. We have workers that are not returning to work. We have lots of people working from home, so forth and so on. And then we begin to see this sort of natural cascading effect of how that is disrupting downtown. And that's not a good place for us to be. So that's the broad term, discussion that needs to take place and what we need to do to make investment in downtown. I was a very strong advocate for Target coming into downtown, and I remember working closely with then Mayor Peduto, and I actually even went to Chicago to look at their flagship on State Street, and they had taken this amazing old department store and turned it into a three-story mega Target right on State Street in the heart of downtown Chicago. It was just amazing, and I had such hope for what that was going to bring to downtown. It didn't quite turn out that way. I'll save that conversation for another day. But the continued investment, I shouldn't say that, the continued activation of downtown is paramount, that we need people on the street, we need people returning to work. This is my opinion. People returning to work, businesses thriving, investment in our in residents. We need, I believe, investment that will serve residents that will want to come and live downtown. We argue we don't want to put everybody in a vehicle to go and buy the most fundamental necessities that they need, cat food and dish soap or whatever. We want to, have walkable communities where people can live and thrive and support business and all of those things. And which brings us to this bill. I just had to lay that foundation in that safety's paramount, right? This idea that downtown is safe isn't safe is just BS. Let me tell you, that's my opinion and my experience. I just think that's just tomfoolery and people wanting to sort of project this image that downtown is not safe. Having said that, I like this, and I really want to hear from you what your thoughts are about partnering with the Downtown Partnership, in that we on the South Side have had experience. They do our clean team. It's been a wonderful partnership, and our partnership is with Downtown Partnership, but it is with Block by Block. So I'm assuming this is an agreement with Block by Block through Downtown Partnership. So I said all that just to ask this question so that you could sort of tell us about what this partnership is going to look like and the benefit that we believe it's going to bring. Okay? I'm very passionate about downtown.
Excuse me, is yes. I think all that you said, in the context that you were laying, I think is exactly correct. And I think lots and lots of folks downtown and institutions downtown are looking to see, like, what's my piece of this? What's our piece of this? I think you'll be happy to learn, if you haven't already, that there are some larger employers that are going to make sure that folks are coming back downtown more frequently to work than they were before. We know it's not going to be exactly the same as it was pre-pandemic, which is why we're also looking at, conversion of spaces. It's why we've developed, I think you've heard, a very specific group of officers who are assigned to downtown as if it's a neighborhood, because it is a neighborhood. And so little by little, we're trying to put the pieces in place to make sure that as the downtown reinvents itself for the fourth or fifth or however many times, that whole ecology is really healthy. So ambassadors are part of that. Not all of the issues that people have downtown, and those issues could be from, I don't know, where is Target? I'm coming in for the first time, or where do you park if you're going to the stadium? Sometimes we just have visitors with a question. Sometimes we have behaviors that don't really need response from from an officer, an armed officer. They just need somebody to say, maybe not right here, or let me point you to where the Porta-John is, and soon we hope the public restrooms will be. So this is a team of people who supplement the work of our officers, who can be connectors between visitors and what they need, between people who are downtown and needing to get connected to something a little more, maybe a Roots member, maybe a social worker. So, and then I think it is partly based on the experience that we've had in the South Side with the partnership with PDP and this particular entity, Block by Block, that we thought, rather than have us running an ambassador team and them running an ambassador team, since they also had resources to contribute, let's run one ambassador team. And they've actually been training, and some of them have been, putting their boots in the street for the first time.
Before I came to council, well, let me back up. Let me walk back some of my comments. I do not mean to minimize those that are concerned about public safety incidents that are taking place downtown. That is not my intent by any means. I want to validate genuine concerns that people do have about public safety issues that are associated with downtown. I want to make that perfectly clear. But this overall notion that somehow you should stay away is just, I just don't. If the only place I would ever move from the South Side ever would be to downtown, period. That is, I would only go deeper into the city, not further out from the city. That's the kind of energy that I need to live. But having said that, before I came to council, I had a design business, and part of my design business was to hang wallpaper. And I was a damn good paper hanger. I mean, a really good, like your roof.
I've
I'm
seen
a
your craft.
good paper
you
hanger.
are good, yes.
And so people would come to me often, they would say, Councilman, we tried to wallpaper X, and where did we go wrong? My stock answer was always, because you didn't hire a professional to begin with. And so to reference your remarks, it's important to go to the professionals. They know how to do this kind of stuff, and Block by Block has an extensive experience throughout the nation working in large metropolitan areas doing exactly this. And we've kind of tried to pilot this maybe a little bit in the South Side, and perhaps maybe, there could be in time a sort of an adjunct component to this, to where we might introduce a few of these public ambassadors into the South Side. But can you tell us a little bit about time frame? Are you looking this to be a Monday through Friday thing? Are we focusing on weekends? Is there going to be some evening? And if you can't, that's okay. We can talk further about it.
I very much wish I had prepared and brought you a schedule, which I will share with you. They have a schedule, and no, they're matched to the hours that people are downtown, and also that we looked a little bit at the police data to see where folks are downtown. So no, they have. Can you do this off the top of your head? Their shifts.
No.
I don't.
They have cover. They have to have more than one shift in the times that are very, that stretch over when people are downtown a lot. And there is a little schedule. I apologize. I should have brought it. I'll share it with you. But the intent is to have continuous coverage for when folks are downtown. And it's a team of, I think, 8 that operate under a lead, to make all of that happen.
In terms of funding, $600,000, we just don't go back, in the back office and print $600,000. It's got to come from somewhere. Is it solely coming out of our budget, or are we going to ultimately look at grants, if you will, or other assistance by other larger employers in downtown to help with this?
So we're already sharing with the large employers downtown. The PDP did fundraising with, whoever they do fundraising with, their constituency. And I think for this year, we're half and half. Our $600,000 is matching $600,000 there. They, I believe, Jeremy told me, have actually done their fundraising for several out years. We're, just talking about this year ourselves. But I think that is the intent. We did actually look for some PCCD money and some grants and so on, and this year that didn't work out, but we are perfectly happy to continue to seek additional funding for this program.
Yeah, and I think as the program, as you mentioned, Councilman, this has been a success in other cities. I think as we prove proof of concept here in Pittsburgh, that will help us get some foundations and some grant funding to show this can work. It provides as far as the scheduling, it will vary. So when there's events in town, when there's baseball games, when there's a concert during Three Rivers Arts Fest, et cetera, there'll be an increased amount of staff. So we are looking at the data, and we'll shift it as it goes. You know, as people come back to work, we'll have some more folks brought in. But it is a matter of more boots on the ground, more people out there looking. You know, I at least once a week, twice a week, I walk through downtown during, if I can get a lunch break, you know, just to see what's going on. I drive past Smithfield Street every morning just to see what's, you know, the concerns and take a look myself. This is going to be a force multiplier to have more people out there that can then report back, because we meet weekly. Every Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock, we meet with our officers, the PDP, DHS, and block by block, to discuss everything that everybody's seeing and work and formulate plans with social service providers, our police officers, county, and the PDP. So it's very much a coordinated effort, and this gives us more people out there engaging, working, listening to what people's concerns are, trying to gather all that information. So.
I'll say one other thing that I think you all would appreciate is that everybody is paid a living wage, everybody is in the union, everybody
Will you say
gets
that
health
again,
benefits,
please?
and
Because that is really,
it is important.
It
Yes.
is.
Yes.
It is.
Yeah. So you know, we want our ambassadors to be part of an important group of people doing important work, and we want to reward them accordingly. So, you know, block by block, I think, I know you know this because of the work on the south side, but they are a company that has figured out in the city of Pittsburgh, and I'm sure in other cities as well, how to, you know, accommodate the way that we like to remunerate important people.
Yes.
and have a union.
Yep, unionized workers, unionized wages, you know, benefits, everything that goes with it, and it reflects in the quality of work that is performed. There's a good symbiosis, is that the word I'm looking for, between employer and employee. And we personally could not be more excited and pleased with our partnership with Block by Block through Downtown Partnership. I hear it every day. We can't imagine what it might be like if they were not out there every day like they are. So. Anyway, just one last comment. I promise I'm going to stop. I am of a generation where downtown was the center of commerce. There was nothing else. I think it was maybe 1963, that's how old I am, that Southwest Village was built. That was the first shopping mall in Western Pennsylvania, if I recall correctly. The center of commerce was downtown, and I come from a generation where streets were 6 deep. You know this. Downtown.
I'm not as old as you.
But downtown was active and activated, and there was an energy to being downtown. There was nothing like it in the world, and I know we'll never quite get there again. I'm not pie in the sky, but we can do better than we are doing now, and this, I think, will be an integral component to being able to do better. That's my comments. I promise I'm going to stop.
Me.
Madam President, and then we're going to go straight down the line because everyone has raised their hand.
Thank you. And although I'm not as old as you, I'm almost as old as you. And I do want to say, I do remember downtown. I lived on Fifth Avenue. I grew up on Fifth Avenue, and I would walk downtown through Uptown, which was also thriving, up to Oakland if I needed to go to Oakland, up in the Hill if we wanted to go to the Hill, whatever. You could walk to everything, and there was always something along the way, to support. And I actually think we can get there again in some way, but I think we have to incentivize it somehow. But my concerns are more, I want to know details. Who holds the liability if something should happen with these ambassadors and residents? Who has that?
Yeah, so that's just like the clean team. These are, PDP.
I don't know a lot about the clean team. That's in your discussion. We don't get cleaned in our side of town.
But they've been downtown for almost 30 years, I think. So they are employees of subcontractors to the PDP and employees of Block by Block. So all the insurance and liability is within them.
Okay.
We are essentially
The
just
city has
funding
no
the
liability.
program. No more than we have in any other situation because it's city property, but,
Just want to make sure. And what union is it? Are they members you mentioned?
32BJ.
It's SEIU. Okay, and then, tell me exactly, they help people in some ways. Do they participate in the cleanup, and how do they differ from the other groups that we have down there, the Roots program? And how will they coordinate if we have resource centers and getting people to those, and with the people working in mental health, in the mental health arena? I'm just wondering how this all coordinates.
Yeah, so that's,
You can help me get a
it
picture.
is, like I said, that morning meeting we have once a week right now. That's where most of this is coordinated. We probably, as this expands, we may expand that a little more. But the ambassadors are kind of, I don't know, the first stop. So when they see a person, they engage with them, whether it's someone who's a tourist, a visitor, or a business person, or someone who lives downtown that has a concern, or someone who has some social needs. They then, or even the youth that are downtown, they'll be engaging with all the folks, just being a friendly face, working with them, and then helping to facilitate connection with them.
Do they have clearances?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. When you said youth, I'm always thinking of protecting
Yeah,
them.
they're not working one-on-one with youth, but when
I know.
you see a group of kids, they'll engage. It's basically to find the needs and then work closely with all the teams, like the REACH team, or our GVI and REACH teams, with
And
the
you
Roots
coordinate
team,
all that?
et
Or
cetera.
who does that?
Through our office,
Through
yeah,
you,
through
okay.
public safety and with police. They're very much training with them,
Yeah.
working with the specialty unit or not specialty unit, but the unit we have, unit of police officers we have downtown.
Are there criteria for becoming one of these ambassadors?
I don't have that on my head, but we can share
Would
that
you
with
send
you.
that to me? Yeah. I'm just curious, and if other people want to do that, where they should reach out and all that.
They absolutely should. And I know this is not quite the question you asked about the youth and rec centers, but one of the things that is really exciting to me about having ambassadors is, when our students graduate from high school, they're not old enough to go into the academy, because in Pennsylvania you can't have a firearm until you're older than that. So they can really only go into the academy when they're 20. So when our new downtown safety center, public safety center is built, they'll deploy out of that with the officers. We're working on having them, for folks who are interested in moving, into different public safety role, to get them some mentoring, and it could really be a terrific bridge job for somebody who graduates from a CTE program in public safety but cannot yet go to the academy to get paid decently, to learn the ropes a little bit, and then move into public safety. So I'm seeing this as a little bit of a, a shadow job for folks who would be interested. So I'm very interested in hearing, if there are residents who want to be here, and particularly if they're interested in public safety as a career.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I like that there's some kind of connection there. I'm going to go because I know all my colleagues have questions, but I'm going to probably call you with a few more questions. But I do want to thank you. I want to say that the same thing. Downtown is amazing. What we need is to be, not only for people to feel safe, whether it's perception or reality. The fact is people aren't going because of the reasons they're hearing on TV or whatever the reasons are. But I think it's incumbent upon us to do more in terms of making our downtown as viable as possible. And I think that when I think of the memories I had growing up and seeing downtown, the windows and all those things, and my kids had those same memories, I mean, I feel like our kids are being robbed of that opportunity. And I think maybe if we could also partner with downtown to do more, Councilman Lavelle and Councilman Wilson, who both represent the area now, correct? I think we could do more to help downtown thrive and incentivize more businesses coming into downtown in a better way. I think that's what we need to do, because I think the more businesses coming, the more people will come, the more people will keep the area safe. So, I mean, the whole story. So I'm just thinking if there's some way we can help in that regard, I'd love to help. Thank you.
Like a Mauritius.
I meet everybody in Marshalls. Councilman
Hoffman's if I closed that, wouldn't it?
Councilman Coghill.
Thank you. Good day, Director and Chief. How are you? So, much like my colleagues, Madam President and Councilman Kraus, I care deeply about downtown. It's disturbing to hear businesses moving out and things of that nature. So I'm glad that we've taken this step to incorporate, a team of 8, I believe it was. Yeah. So my first question is this: they've been on the street now for almost a month, couple weeks? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So are we recording data? Say, for instance, if an ambassador has to call a police officer, are we recording all that? Like how many times are they, each ambassador, are they kind of documenting, who they helped, what they helped out with, or if they had to call in the PPD, or?
I don't know. It's a good question, and I don't know the details. We should get the details for you. What I do know is that the meeting that Lee keeps referencing that happens on Tuesday morning, they're clearly reading through reports that they are keeping themselves. So when they say, I encountered this at this time and I encountered that at that time. So they're definitely doing some reporting. I've only heard those reports. I've not seen them, but I think we can find out what they record and how. It's definitely happening.
I was really happy to hear of this because I actually called Jeremy and wanted to sign up as an ambassador. I didn't know it was like a paid position or anything at the time, but like my colleagues, like all my colleagues, I'm sure, we care greatly about downtown, and I just felt like the need. But I have 2 full-time jobs, and I probably didn't make the cut, so I didn't pursue it beyond that. So yeah, I'd like to know like how many times they felt the need to call a police officer if we're going to be keeping those records. And the other thing was, we're in for $600,000, and I didn't realize that. I thought that the partnership, they collect $9-10 million a year in hotel motel tax. I thought they took this initiative. Was it us that reached out to them, or did they approach us with the idea? How did this come about?
I think it was the meshing of two ideas. Mm-hmm. So they had the idea of downtown ambassadors for the purpose of more of a tourism faction to kind of guide people in places and do some engagement. We had the idea of some public safety ambassadors, kind of like Chief Frank said, for a couple things. One is to have a representative out there that would be an additional set of eyes for public safety reporting back. Also a bridge program for people that might be interested in a public safety field. What a better way to get some experience than to engage with people on a regular basis, learn how people kind of work and play and live in a space together, than to be out in a downtown, a vibrant area, just talking. So I think as we sat and talked, we realized instead of each of us doing our own thing, how do we unify this and make something that makes the most sense and probably the most efficient way to do this program. So that's kind of where this came from. They did approach the city. Actually, it's been a couple years that they started this ambassador program. So
I guess my other question is, this is annual. This is for 1 year, $600,000 cost to the city. Partnership's putting up roughly same. So it's $1.2 million, and we have 8 ambassadors. Where's all the money go to?
I think the intent is to have more than 8. That's just all they have hired so far. I don't remember the final numbers, but we'll get that to you.
I could do the quick math, and this, is any of this money going into the facility that we're renovating? No. Okay, so $1.2 million, you have 8 people. What do they make an hour? I know you said a living wage, but how much per hour?
I'm not sure I can pull up the budget, but Director Schmidt is right. I think we've got 8 out now, and I think the intent is to get to that full kind of coverage, 2 shifts, or a shift that crosses over into the wee hours. So let me share with you the budget. Okay. What I remember are the figures like with the roll-up, not exactly what people are taking home in their pockets, but it's in the mid to high 20s an hour with the roll-up, with the health benefits and with the pension, and all of that. So it's not. It's decent money. It's not exorbitant.
Right. So say we'll just use a round figure for conversation's sake. Say $50,000 a year each one makes. That's $400,000 a year. We got $1.2 million. So the idea is not to exasperate the $1.2 million. We're expecting there to be funds left over for next year and the year after if it's successful.
Yeah, and as Chief Frank mentioned, the PDP has figured out funding for a number of years out. So our portion is rather small. Right now, our commitment of this 600 is much smaller than what the PDP has gathered for not only this year but future years. And that also includes training for them. uniforms, equipment that they're going to need.
Uniforms,
some
they're
services.
unarmed, but they're in uniform.
Yeah, they're in a very soft, very similar to what the clean team wears, but different colors. And
Are we going to be asked to put up another 600,000 next year, or are we just going to see where that pot of money is at the end of this year? Is that right? So no commitments beyond this year
no, not yet.
on either part, the partnership or ours. I mean, we're committed to, hopefully the program works, and, you know, we hope it thrives and is helpful. And I love the idea of having eyes on the street down there, other than police officers, armed police officers, and just to help tourists and, you know, report anything that they might see. So, yeah, I guess I was just hoping, and I thought that the partnership kind of was footing the bill because it's in their interest, and I didn't realize that we were going to be paying for half.
Yeah, like that's what our commitment was for the first year, and then we'll go. Yeah, it's out of the Stop the Violence Trust Fund.
Okay.
But I think we will continue to talk through this as we see how the program develops and grows.
Right. Too early to say if it's been a success, but any feedback that we can get in the coming months would be great as far as, you know, what these ambassadors see down there. So, okay, that's it for me. Thank you for being here.
Councilman Wilson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I have to say, I don't know if I have a good analogy. I don't know if I have a wallpaper analogy in me today. But thanks for being here, and thanks for going over the program. Can you tell me what's unique about the ambassadors versus outreach workers? Like, is there one aspect of it that's unique about ambassadors versus outreach workers?
Yeah. I think, well, the wallpaper analogy, if you want to use that, the outreach workers, whether it's Roots or whether it's Reach, they're very focused on a specific thing, right? So the Roots team focuses on unhoused and drug addiction. The Reach team focuses on violence and crime reduction and crime, diversion type stuff. The ambassadors are kind of the folks that direct people to those programs and work with them. So they're an additional set that aren't necessarily specialized as much. They're more of a general contractor, I guess, so to speak. And then they send them based on which path they feel they should go down, as they engage with someone, when they see someone. Sometimes it's a referral. Sometimes it's, hey, do you know we have a hub for the Roots team, up on Smithfield Street. If it's somebody that's unhoused or having an addiction issue, let's help you get up there, and then kind of hand them off. Again, it's more of a force multiplier. Same with the Reach. They would work with Mad Dads and the Reach team, and even our officers when those incidents happen. But then they're also down there to give directions, like, how do I find where to get the 91 bus? And when there's a parade, how do I find to get the 91 bus? Because my street's closed that it's normally on. So.
Okay, thanks.
I'd also say we want them to keep moving. Like if an ambassador, say, discovers a problem, overdose, whatever the problem is, and gets the right kind of support, that support person may be with that human being. They may transport with them. They may for hours, and because they're really there to get the rest of the job done, so to speak. We kind of want the ambassador to make the handoff and then get back out, sort of being eyes and ears. So I think of them more as a kind of soft patrol. They know what to do, but they're not really going to do it, or depending on what it is, if it's just giving directions or, you can't do that here, move along kind of thing. There are some problems that they can take care of as they move, but some they can't, and we want them to keep moving.
That was helpful. I was thinking of one of the answers and what it could be, because I don't really know. I just saw this I think it was on the news, and there was a post about it when they started walking around downtown. But it seems like one of the unique things about it is that they will be identifiable, like you said, in a soft polo. You didn't say that, but so they're wearing some sort of some sort of uniform, right? Whereas like an outreach worker, you wouldn't know that they're an outreach worker, because they might just be in some, clothes that would blend in, with everyone else downtown. But these are, like, what color is the shirt? yellow?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't remember. I
Okay,
know
but
the
anyway,
clean
there's like
team
some
wears
sort of
one color and
identifiable
these guys
color, and they're walking in pairs, or just
Not
it doesn't have to
necessarily. Some of
be-
them walk around. I've seen them walk around, single. Some walk in pairs. Probably depends on what they're doing and how crowded things are.
Okay.
Obviously, Market Square gets busy, so there might be more than one person there. But yeah, they'll walk differently. And like you said, different outreach workers. The Roots team typically are in plain clothes. You wouldn't know them. The Reach workers usually wear the Reach uniform with outreach written on the back. So everybody kind of has the spot, but these folks are very noticeable to the public.
and they're walking all the time. There's not like cars that they have or vehicles.
Not at this point, no.
Okay, just curious. Downtown's not too big, but at the same time, it's. So, and also, I should just say for the record, I'm more interested in taking down wallpaper these days, but hopefully, I don't take out any wallpaper you put up. But no, I appreciate everything that you're looking into, and I'm curious to see how the program develops. In terms of training, is there one like national pro? Since you mentioned that other cities are doing this, like, is there one national model that they're following for training? Because there's definitely a lot of dots that we're requiring them to connect.
Yeah, they're using a similar program they use in other cities for block by block. And then, like I said, we're also working through ways, this program is very new, ways that we can better have collaborative training with the outreach teams, the police officers, and the ambassadors. So everybody's kind of all walking together as we do these programs.
I will say also that I'll just forward this to you because it's got the schedule in it and the wages and whatnot. Shall I forward it to you and you can? Okay. But one of the things that was in the proposal that I liked was, that they're thoughtful about retention of employees. So, this is a job where you could see if you weren't being thoughtful about that, you could just sort of churn through people, onboard them, offboard them, onboard them, offboard them. And the training isn't just like goes from, okay, good, you're ready to go, here's your uniform, but people are trained all the way through their tenure and really kind of targeted for leadership development. So they have they do leadership identification, they've got developments, they've got employee coaching and things that happen so that people can move from what they call a hospitality ambassador through a leadership level that I can't recall what it's called, something like dispatch or something, into team lead and then, in the company itself. So that was something that was really attractive to me, particularly as we thought about if we're going to say to our residents, okay, come on, this is a halfway decent job, then it would be nice, not only does it have pay and benefits, but it's not a dead-end job.
Thanks. And I remember in the peace plan there was something referencing. I think it was ambassadors. Was this referenced in the peace plan?
Yeah, and that goes to Director Schmidt's point. This was an idea that I think originated sort of independently in two different spots with slightly different, flavors.
Yeah.
But yes.
So when I heard that in the original peace plan, I was assuming that it was kind of wherever the hotspots would be or wherever we felt there was the need. I didn't realize it would be only specifically for downtown. Is there an opportunity, if it's successful, to grow it to other areas?
I think that is very much in my thinking is, let's sort of get this worked out and see how it goes and evaluate it and get the reports that Councilman Coghill is looking for and see. And then, I think I can think of off the top of my head, I don't know, 3 or 4 spots where it. No, I didn't. Did I? Okay, so. Anyway, because you could easily see that being useful in some other, corridors in the city.
But there's not an effort for the administration to create another program alongside that are also ambassadors. This is the program.
No, but again, you can see when
I just want to confirm
the plan
that,
for peace. When we wrote the plan for peace almost a year ago.
Yeah.
So that's what Director Schmidt was saying is that we sort of were thinking about it and thinking about, well, we should stand it up or whatever, and then ran into the downtown partnership saying we want to do this and thought, all right, well, this is how we'll get this started. This is how we'll pilot. This is how we'll get the wrinkles out of it. and then it can
No.
kind of loop back into the plan for peace. Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Councilwoman Strasburger.
Thank you. So we've talked a lot about this already. So first of all, I'll say I'm very supportive. I'm glad we're doing this, and thank you for working with the PDP and other partners to make this happen, and the thought you put into this. We've talked a lot already, so I understand pretty clearly what the ambassadors will do. Is there anything else you'd like to say about what they won't do, so that we're clear about that? We've touched on a lot. Like, what is the line for them to say intervene or not intervene, or to pass it along to someone who has different training? If there's something we haven't covered already that you'd like to share or elaborate on, I'd love to hear that.
The only thing I would say is that they're not enforcement, right? That's why our law enforcement officers are downtown. But they are someone who would have some duty to intervene if they see an overdose, if they see a fight. They're trained in some de-escalation techniques, that sort of thing. So they would be if something happens in front of them, they would act. But they're not going to cite people. They're going to be the person who kind of asks them to not, to stop doing the behavior. And if that doesn't work, then they will call in law enforcement to take it to that next step.
Okay.
As needed.
Thank you. I like the layer on top of this being an entry point to possible public safety jobs and careers. And I just wanted to put a plug into our crossing guard program, and that these seem like perfect candidates for many different positions, including crossing guards. So I hope that is part of that, and that we're really recruiting heavily from this population of workers to consider those positions as well. Since I know we're desperate for so many positions, I get it, but that's one that's included there. And then I'll lastly say we've been talking a lot about the transition to a different type of downtown, or what downtowns look like, and I understand that every downtown is going to look a little bit different. Every city's a little bit different. Every commercial district's a little bit different. And what I recognize is that, like, even if we don't get all the office workers back, and even if we don't have a huge population of residents living downtown quite yet, I think what every type of person is looking for, whether they live there or they're a tourist or they're, coming in from out of the city but in the county, is an experience more than shopping, right? And it's not necessarily going to go back to the, big time stores and shopkeepers and people who are catering to a business crowd, the tailors, the dry cleaners, as much as it might be restaurants, and it might be the 18-hour economy, as Councilman Kraus likes to mention with his with the Office of Nighttime Economy. So I heard a statistic from Boston that their financial district has actually more restaurants than it did pre-pandemic, than as some of these other types of service industry shops are closing, more restaurants are coming back. And I thought that was really interesting and inspiring, and something to take note of for our downtown, which I think, a similar type of city of neighborhoods. So to the extent that outside of this particular bill and this particular program, something that I have been thinking about and wanted to say out loud as well. Thank you.
Well, I guess I'll just cut right to the chase. Is there any way to get this in Squirrel Hill? Because this is like exactly what I need in Squirrel Hill. I'm getting lots of, folks coming and what they're asking for, because there's, whether it's folks, panhandling on the street or sleeping in doorways and such. And, I'm getting a lot of requests from business owners to, could we ramp up the police? Could we get more? And I'm, and that doesn't feel like the right solution to me, but this feels like the right solution. So I don't know. I mean, in terms of increasing job security for your folks, this is, if you wanted to pilot it in another neighborhood, I feel like one person would be all it would take for, it's basically just Forbes and Murray, right? And that would be like, just because people don't feel comfortable themselves saying, could you not do that here, please? Or but if there was someone who was actually assigned, that would anyway, I don't know if there's someone I could talk to maybe have that happen sooner rather than later, or, happy to have that discussion.
Yeah, I think, I mean, that is our intent. I know Councilman Wilson already mentioned it, but to your point, I think as this, and actually Councilman Kraus mentioned it too, as this program develops and we see that we're doing a good concept and we kind of have the policies and trainings and stuff figured out, I think the next evolution of that would be to then, place some of these positions in those, in other neighborhoods, whether it's the south side on the weekends and evenings, whether it's Lawrenceville, Squirrel Hill, North Shore, et cetera. Like, when people come to the city, we want to make sure they're being engaged with people that are representing the city. And realistically, it provides a training and a career path into public safety, into other city services, especially for people that are, not quite done with school or university, or trying to figure out where they want to be. This is a great way to see a lot of how you would engage with public and where they want to go. So, maybe you have an idea, you want to be a police officer, and then you do this for a little bit and you see what the medics are doing, you realize I'd like to be a paramedic. Or you see the crossing guards and say, that looks like a good job for me, and, get them a little bit of experience. Or a park ranger, et cetera. So, but I do think we could definitely look at expanding those, and we would probably just need to come to you all for money, right? Additional funding. So,
and also it's just kind of lovely, right? I mean, to me, I mean, people said ambassadors. I'm like, oh, that's kind of a goofy name, but and I stopped and thought about it, and I thought, how nice it is for the city to have personnel that are kind of the face of the city and know the range of stuff and know how to help people, and have de-escalation skills, but also can say, yeah, I do know, where you park if you want to go to the museum, or you're visiting here looking for lunch, I know the streets. I mean, I don't know, I've really warmed beyond just their utility. I've kind of warmed to the idea of the city having in its public safety world a group of people whose job it is to know the city, know the residents, and kind of help out. And maybe at some point we give them snow shovels or something, but it's just kind of lovely. No, I'm joking.
So, I mean, in terms of the pilot downtown, how long are you thinking? Like 6 months, or what? I mean, what? Sorry to be, but I was like, when could we start to maybe think about? I mean, I'm sure the pilot will be great. I just this is so exactly what is needed in Squirrel Hill, like one person. I mean, I feel like, if there's funding, like maybe if I could talk, if there needs to be some kind of match from organizations, be happy to help figure that out.
I wonder if people, it's probably because I don't know the answer to that question. Yeah. Like, I wonder if we could probably arrange, if people would like to talk with block by block and sort of ask that, like, when do you feel like, okay, this thing is gelling? What would you think about taking people, how would it be different to have downtown ambassadors who are working in teams of 8 from 7 a.m., as it turns out, to midnight, at least on some days? Not one ambassador, that's 2 shifts. To an area like this, how would the training differ? And, just really sort of talk that through with them and begin to get a handle on it. The mayor went and visited the ambassadors while they were in their training as well. And I imagine, they wouldn't want everybody to descend all at once, but if people wanted to go and have a peek at it, I imagine we could arrange that as well.
Yeah, that would be great. I'll send you an email, and super, thanks.
Gross.
Hi, thank you all. I'm going to lower my hand on my screen now. Thank you. So great discussion. I appreciate everyone else's questions and the answers. I'm also enthusiastic to see how this program works. And I've been doing a little reading about block by block. I wasn't as familiar with them as Councilman Kraus. And I do see that they are active in 100 cities, according to their website, and that they do have kind of several main buckets of services like cleanliness. So the clean team work is one bucket, but outreach services is another on their website. And they themselves describe it as working with members of the street population, but also a well-formulated plan for outreach, including social services outreach coordinators. So not social workers per se, but coordinators to the social workers, connect with known service providers, and also assessments of what is happening on the street and understanding people's perceptions of the local social service system, it says. So I'm assuming that, and I think you've said this, but I just want to clarify for myself, that block by block will be providing both a clean team and an outreach team, but those aren't the same employees. Am I understanding this right?
That's right. And the city, to my knowledge, doesn't have anything to do with the downtown clean team. Our downtown clean team is DPW.
Got it. Thank you. And to the legislation itself, this is another kind of resolution that's very, very thin and doesn't really, just gives you permission to do an agreement. And so I have a couple of questions that have been touched on a little bit. It says, assist with connecting people to physical and mental health services, which we've all talked about, I think, a bit at the table. It also says alleviating stresses on police and improving event safety. And so we've talked about that a little bit, that, you know, they're physically identifiable in their yellow t-shirts, but they seem to, on the website at least, to have kind of like a police radio maybe. And I'm really fascinated by us kind of adding more, it's not exactly the same as diversion, but adding more staffing to do that first, usually we use first responder for like dangerous situations, but this is like a first contact. So again, if you want to clarify if I'm understanding this correctly or add anything.
Yeah, I think you're right. So it allows, which is what we've talked about, and this is what our officers say too, is some of the lower level things, some of the things that they do have radios of their own. They're not on our radio system yet. We have to talk through that, but they are an extra pair of eyes and ears and feet on the street, seeing things, reporting those things. Working closely with the police and doing what they can to reduce the need for police to engage with lower level incidents, whether it's a minor crime or a petty thing, but working with our social work team on diversion, working with our social work team on getting services, etc. And those are things the police do now. But it also allows the police then to focus on the more significant crime and concerns. I think if that answers your question, I think.
It does, thank you. And again, sticking with the legislation, I'm reading the fiscal impact statement, and so help me to understand. It says total cost of $600,000. It says funding source is trust funds. It has a JDE number. Is this Stop the Violence Trust Fund?
Yes.
Okay. I think that's the appropriate use of funds, because I also kind of have this bulleted list I wrote down in front of me of your Tuesday morning meetings or kind of coordinating group violence intervention and police and reach and roots, and those are all kind of mainly Stop the Violence funded other activities. So it just kind of makes sense to me, but it wasn't said in words, so that was helpful. I appreciate that. And then the last question I have is similar to other members also, but we have been working on doing crisis intervention training for the frontline and retail workers that we're hoping to launch this year. And so these new outreach workers seem to probably have that training. Are they trained by their employer block by block? Are they trainers themselves? Can they help implement our crisis training for frontline and service workers? Can you speak to kind of how those parts might fit together?
I haven't really thought about them for the service workers, as you mentioned, but yeah, they do currently do their own training. We're also looking at that to see how they can do that in conjunction with our other public safety bureaus, just to make sure everybody's kind of walking together and having the same training. So I think that's an idea we could definitely talk to block by block about, providing outside training to, service industry folks that are not only downtown but throughout the city. So maybe we do have a standardized training program for everybody, right? So.
Yeah, exactly. I think that this is kind of like, it is starting to have kind of mutually reinforcing kind of efficiencies. And so I'm really excited about the program. I understand it's just downtown, but it really seems like we're adding resources where we've been hoping to add resources. So I'm eager to see how it works out, and I'm supportive today. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Second round, Madam President.
Thank you. I really wanted to know about the radios or about the whether they'd have the walkie-talkies or something like connected to us somehow. But I just want to say, back when I was first elected, we had Nextels, and when you could press a button and it's a push button radio. Honest to goodness, they were like the best way to get a hold of city employees because they couldn't ignore it. You know what I mean? So I just want to say that was one of the best. So I know they make some type of push button radios, but not the Nextels anymore. But I wonder if that's a possibility to look into something like that for employees that you have to get in touch with, like the ambassadors. But I do want to say, it all sounds so nice. I mean, it really does, and I like the idea that you want to move people into a career and something more But I know what people are going to say at home, because there's a lot of people like me at home that sit there and think, well, it sounds great that somebody's going to clean up and somebody's going to say, welcome people to town. But the reality is we're changing policing in the city of Pittsburgh. And as we do that, I think is this part of the interim process of getting to a place where we're doing different things differently in terms of policing. What I'm trying to say is I think people want to see that if there's somebody with a problem. Like I just saw something, and I shared it with some of the members, that there was a fight downtown. And that's what people are going to see. They're going to see the fight. They're going to see that's going to be all over the news. There's going to be trash all over the place. There's going to be that there are people that are homeless with drug and alcohol problems, some sex offenders, registered sex offenders. That's what people read and see every day. How do we change that? By saying we're going to have people that are going to welcome you downtown. Welcome you into what? And so I think that's what people want to know. So it sounds like there's a lot of efforts. Truly, it does sound like you're doing a lot of different things. But the public needs to know, I think, what are we doing now that's going to make people feel safer in downtown Pittsburgh, to make people want to come downtown, to make people want to invest in downtown. So could you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's what people are here. I mean, honestly, it sounds great, but I don't want to. I feel like when I question things, you feel like I'm attacking your program. What I'm trying to do is say what people elected me to do. They have concerns and they want to know what you're doing. So,
yeah, I think this is something even our officers have asked for. I meet with the FOP quite frequently, but regularly, at least once a month. And,
you're a man; they like you.
The president and I have chatted about our social work programs and some of these other outreach programs, et cetera. It allows our officers to do what they signed up for, which is to enforce laws and reduce crime.
Are you allowing them to do that? Say that. Please say that publicly, because that's. I mean, we see this all the time, and we hear this all the time. Are you allowing them to do their job in reducing crimes.
Absolutely. We
Say that, okay. That's what you said.
we have this discussion all the time, even around downtown. You know, if someone is engaging in illegal activity, yes, we want them to enforce the laws and do what's right and what they're trained to do. But we also, and even officers have said this, nuisance, or what they might consider a nuisance call, a quality of life issue, minor infractions don't necessarily need a police officer. They might just need services or help. And it allows officers to focus on the criminal activity versus the social services activity, which officers are, I mean, we do have all of our officers go through CIT program, so they are trained to help with that. But as Chief Frank stated earlier, sometimes when you have someone in crisis, you're there for a couple hours with them. We can't have an officer dedicated to someone for a couple hours. What helps is if the officer has somebody else they can hand off to, or if there's other folks that can intervene before an officer even needs to be there, which is kind of what these ambassadors are for. So when you see someone who's unhoused or has an addiction issue and they're down there, and the ambassadors would see them, then they can connect them with the Roots team, they can connect them with the social work team, and it allows our officers to continue their patrol. Oh, the ambassador's got this, I can keep going down to see what else is going on the street. So.
And you anticipate that this will take about how long before downtown starts to see some real changing and some of the things that are preventing people from coming to town?
I mean, I think it's.
Is there a time?
We've already, just with the increased officers, I've gotten a lot of folks reached out, said they've already seen a difference.
But where are you taking those officers from? What I also don't want is for them to come from our districts, and I think they are.
Well, that's another reason for the ambassadors, so we don't need to bring as many officers down, because the ambassadors can be a force multiplier for them. As you all know, our staffing numbers are low. We're not alone. That we actually, compared to neighboring cities, or not neighboring cities, but other major cities throughout the country, I've talked to some of those chiefs and public safety directors. They're down a third of their force. Luckily, we're not at that point, and we don't want to get to that point. But some of it is a matter of wellness for officers. Often, it's not a fun job when you have to continuously work overtime, when you always have to deal with things that aren't necessarily what you signed up for, and you don't have the resources. This is an additional resource for all of our public safety folks and for the residents. As far as how long it's going to take downtown to become what people want it to be, it is downtown. There's always going to be probably some level of crime. It's just a matter of how we manage that. To Councilman Krause's point, that earlier, when the pandemic hit, nobody was downtown, and it's a vacuum, so then folks move in. The more people that are in a town and in any area to work and play and visit and tourism, the less of problematic or concerning issues arise.
But I want the public to know that you are trying, and you are aware, and you are trying to do more in terms of making downtown.
And I think
this
in
program.
many ways succeeding. The PDP tracks a lot of stuff that we don't really know how to track, because they do geofencing and they watch cars come in and cars go out and all kinds of fancy stuff. But they track employees, like relative to pre-pandemic level. How many people are working downtown? How many people are here on a Saturday night? How many people are here? And I went to a board meeting and saw those figures, and I was surprised, as someone who reads the media and gets a lot of emails, at how good those numbers actually looked, because I would have thought it's like, well, nobody's ever here, our parking lots are never ever full, and in fact the trajectory is steady upwards. And, and those numbers are crossing 70% and crossing 80%. And we saw, to Councilman Strasburger's point, there were 3 restaurants that had their best years ever this year. So I would say that the data are, I think, showing that people's fear of downtown is not universal, because a lot of people are coming downtown, which is good. There are people who we need to do more to make it feel comfortable for everybody. And I think, downtown is also not entirely one place. And so, we have been careful to sort of think about this corner is a little tricky right now, and what do we want to do over there about lighting, and what do we want to do about there, and how do we want to make sure that our micro assignments for our officers are focused here and here and here. But I would say I think there is already a story of progress to be told.
So I'm going to add that, one, that Mayor Gainey's been going to the police, stations, correct, and talking with the officers, just similar to what he's done in DPW. So I think that's helpful, having those conversations. You attending those? Okay. But I'm just going to say, when I was young, a long time ago, the big issue downtown was the hippies that would come downtown tripping out on LSD, handing out cards to people and doing all kinds of stuff. And so back then, my dad's like, "No, you're not going to." But I have great memories of downtown. So I just want to say to people, there may always be something in town, but it may not be something that you regret 20 years down the road. Well, okay, maybe 40 years down the road. But I'm just going to say, for me, it was part of my childhood growing up, and I have a lot of great memories of downtown and what was there positive and what other people might have viewed as negative. So, thanks. That's a big story, huh? I could tell you stories about them tripping out, streaking down Fifth Avenue.
So, I apologize. I sort of birthed this in-depth conversation here, and I have a 12:15, and I have to go, and I really apologize, but I'll stay on Zoom if that is helpful. Okay,
if you can get on.
I'll be happy to stay on Zoom. But just a couple of things that went around at the table that I'd like an opportunity to address. The councilman was wondering about the cost of the operation, and is it all going to a wage? It doesn't all go to a wage. There's an operational cost to it, and whether that be uniforms and materials and supplies, and all those kinds of things that will come down to it.
Coming your way. There's a breakout in the proposal I'm going to send you.
Okay, yeah, please, would you please? And then the councilman also brought up about who's keeping track of what they're doing. And one of the best experiences that we have with Block by Block in the South Side is they are so very data-driven. They tell us to the letter, we picked up this much poundage of trash, we picked up these many empty bottles, we cleared these many graffiti tags, we removed these many stickers, and it is delineated every month and distributed to us that this is what we did, this is what you're paying for, and this is what we did. So they're amazing at how data-driven they really are. And then the last point just went out. The difference between the Downtown Clean Team and then the Public Safety Ambassadors. The Clean Team is funded through Downtown Partnership into Block by Block, but would be a completely separate operation from what this would be. This would be the city engaging with Block by Block through Downtown Partnership to launch the ambassadors, but they would not be intermingled in any way. They'd be two completely separate programs. And then I do apologize that I'm leaving. I really do. This was a great conversation. I'm really glad that we had it. And my last comment or recommendation would be, we know that Burlington is moving into the old Coffins building and taking that space, which leaves the old Gimbel's building prepped for a perfect location for Marshall's Home Goods. Ideal. So, just wanted to put that out there. But thank you. This was a really good and necessary conversation, and I appreciate that everybody engaged.
You want to register an aye vote?
And yes, and so I'd like to register an aye vote on this and the remaining bills, please.
Thank you. Councilwoman Warwick?
I did, well, so when I initially read, I just was sort of curious, if there was a mechanism for people to get a hold of an ambassador if they need one, versus just sort of being at the right place at the right time.
It's the next tell, I'm telling you.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like you were saying, I don't know, like some kind of a, whatever. Probably. I'm assuming no, like that it's like you just have to see if you see an ambassador, but that might be something further on. So if you are, for example, working in a coffee shop and you do have somebody, it's like, oh, if I could get a hold of an ambassador rather than calling 911, that would maybe just be something to think about down the road. But then just in terms of, because I definitely get people calling too, saying, oh, it's such a shame, you can't go downtown anymore, like it's so dangerous. And so I'm glad now that I have this information. So now I can say, well, actually, we have this new program, and it would be great. I don't know if there are numbers about where you could actually say, oh, well, actually, people are going down, you know what I mean? There are more. So it would be, I don't know if there's some way to get those numbers to, just whatever.
Let me
So
ask what the
just a few
PDPs
talking points for us to,
happy to
kind
share.
of promote what you all are doing to, improve downtown. And maybe also a little wink to our friends in the media off to my right.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Affirmative recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for
thank
the
you all
long
for being
conversation.
here.
Thank you.
That takes us to our Public Works and Infrastructure Committee. Oh, well, we did that one. So we now move on to Human Resources Committee, which is chaired by Reverend Burgess. We have one new paper, Bill 1392.
Resolution providing for an agreement or agreements with Keen 360 Inc. to provide technical support and development to the Commission on Human Relations for its customer service portal for 1 year in an amount not to exceed $26,700.
Motion to approve, very brief discussion.
Second.
Director Ham emailed all council members that he was not available to stay and that it wished for our approval. So I just wanted to share that.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Affirmative recommendation. That takes us to Land Use Economic Development Committee, chaired by Councilman Wilson. One deferred paper, Bill 661.
An ordinance accepting a new street name, Woodring Court, in the 23rd Ward of the City of Pittsburgh, as per recommendation by the City of Pittsburgh Addressing Committee. The following street name was approved by CPAC in June 2022. The name listed in this ordinance shall be made official in accordance with the Pittsburgh Code, Title 4, Public Places and Properties, Chapter 420, Uniform Street Naming and Addressing.
Motion to hold 6 weeks.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Bill will be held 6 weeks. Bill 1393.
An ordinance amending the Pittsburgh Code, Title 9, Zoning, Article 1, Section 902.03, Zoning Map, by changing from residential single-unit detached, low-density district to urban industrial district, certain property roughly bounded by Kelly Street, Fifth Avenue, Frankstown Avenue, and the Allegheny Valley Railroad Brilliant Line, all in the Allegheny County Block and Lot System, 12th Ward.
Motion to send to the Planning Commission for report and recommendation.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Bill will be sent to the Planning Commission. And that takes us to our last committee of the day, Recreation, Youth, and Senior Service Committee, chaired by Councilwoman Strasburger. We have one deferred paper, Bill 1368.
Resolution authorizing the Director of the Department of Parks and Recreation and/or the Director of the Office of Management and Budget to enter into agreements in individual amounts of $10,000 or less with performers, instructors, artists, referees, and persons with specialized skills in connection with the department's recreational and instructional programs and special event services.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Affirmative recommendation. That exhausts our agenda for today. We do have meeting announcements this afternoon at 1:30 and 2:30. Council will hold a Cablecast post-agenda discussion and a Cablecast public hearing on the Spin e-scooter pilot program, both chaired by Councilman Warwick. And on Thursday, April 13th at 10 a.m., Council will hold a Cablecast public hearing on Bills 2023-1313 and 1314 as they relate to the reopening of the 2023 budget. Next week, Council will hold our regular and standing committee meetings on Tuesday, April 18th and Wednesday, April 19th at 10 a.m. respectively. Speaker registration will close at 9 a.m. the day of the meeting. To register to speak at any of these meetings, please fill out the sign-up form on the council meeting webpage. You may also call the clerk's office at 412-255-2138. Announcements, Madam President.
I just want to say that we have a couple things I want to make sure the public knows about coming up. One is a behavioral mental health resource fair on Saturday, April 15th at 10 to 3 at the Mount Washington Healthy Active Living Center. There'll be a lot of providers there. Ricky Moody and Diane Hobson had worked on this together with our office to put this program together. So if people need help, drug and alcohol counseling, other sorts of mental health services, they'll be able to come to that event and get some services. And with that said, that's it for me.
Thank you.
There's a couple
Councilwoman.
other, but I'll announce them later.
Is there a flyer or something to that we could share on social
Oh, yeah.
media and stuff for that?
Yeah. I shared it
forward that?
on Twitter and Facebook, and so did Ricky Moody.
Okay.
So if you would share, that would be great.
Yep.
And if you'd want to do these kinds of things across, that's one of the reasons we hired Ricky, so that he could get these types of services into our neighborhoods. And so if you want to do it in your district, they'll be happy to do it in each of yours.
Great.
That's all. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. With that, we need a motion to excuse the absent member, approve the minutes, and adjourn the meeting.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.